to the Fiasco Sports NBA previews. I'm Matt Sampson. Joining me is Tim Buttery. Lovely to have you here, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Before we get started, I'd like to make a quick shout out to Sporties at the Arca for having us here and letting us film. If you want to check them out, the link will be in the description. If you're in Adelaide, you want to grab a meal or something and watch some sport at the same time, it's the perfect place for that. So check them out, definitely. All right, we've got the 29th ranked team in my predictions. A bit of a contentious ranking by me in your eyes, but the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, it is a contentious ranking. I mean, I think they're a team with great potential, probably more so than the Knicks or the Timberwolves at this early stage.
Really?
I would say for the next couple of seasons they'll be pushing ahead better than those two teams.
Yeah, we're certainly at odds here. I tend to agree with you. I think that the Celtics have a lot of potential. I just don't think that they're going to deliver on that potential this season. So, looking at what they did last year, they finished with a 25-57 record, which was good enough for 12th in the East, 26th overall. So I'm only bumping them down 3 spots from last year, if you look at it that way. So, if you say that they're getting a little bit worse, which I reckon they are, I reckon I'm on the money.
Well, 12th in the East, you look at that and that's abysmal. I mean, the Eastern Conference is really nothing special, and to come 12th, that's a bottom feeder if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, and last year they really struggled on the offensive end of the floor, didn't they? I mean, they only put up 96 points a game, which was 26th in the entire league.
That's social basketball level right there.
That's down to the Onka Piranhas at the rec centre in Mount Barker. I reckon we could put up that. But defence, probably a little better than my rec ball team. 13th in the NBA, which is pretty respectable for this side. So that's, like you're saying, that moving on potential, to have a team that's already worked out the defensive end of things, that's definitely a positive than a team that's really good at gunning now but can't stop someone.
Absolutely.
So, one of their strengths from last season in my eyes was actually as a gut-wrenching thing for me, because I hated the move in the story of it was trading Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, which I reckon in the long term, all those picks they've got from the Nets, they'll be heading Boston's way. I reckon, building on that potential we've spoken about, getting some picks in the long run, trading those two legends was probably the best move they've made. It
was very hard, I think, for a lot of Celtics people, a lot of Celtics fans, because they carried them through such a glory era to the 17th world title and things like that. But I think it had to be done. If you look at Brooklyn's season, you look at Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, they were starting to break down a little bit, even though clutch time was still there for PP at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's even for the casual observer to see Pierce spent, 15 years at the Celtics. I mean, for as long as I can remember watching NBA basketball, Paul Pierce had been a Celtic. It was just basically an assumption he was going to retire there. But, I think a lot of people talked about Danny Ainge holding on to that big three for too long, and they eventually let Ray Allen go, and people were worrying they weren't going to get a lot for them because they'd moved past that peak value. But the amount of picks that he managed to swindle off of Mikhail Prokhorov and the Nets is he'd been laughing all the way to draft night.
Well, I don't think he really had any basketball knowledge, Mikhail Prokhorov, so he usually runs through his front office.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. He maybe doesn't know who Paul Pierce is. I mean, he's not on the Nets anymore, so Yeah. The weakness with the Celtics last season, though, was Rajon Rondo's knees.
The ACL.
He missed a big chunk of the year. We know that is that hated ACL injury, which has become more and more common recently, especially the point guards. A lot of point guards cut down with that ACL tear, and it's something that's hard to come back from, because you do have to take a little while to get back to full strength. So even when you might be back on the court, but you're not going to be the player you used to be. So losing Rondo last season, he would have been a guy that from the start would have tied this young squad together and helped lead them, and he wasn't there, which really didn't help. But looking at the guys that they've brought in this season, they've brought in the Bayou Bomber, Marcus Thornton.
Fantastic.
He dropped 40 points for the Nets last season. Which I
like him. I like him a lot. I think Sacramento Kings originally, and then onto the Nets.
I think in this team, this situation, just to have that guy that has that ability to light it up. He's probably not going to play a whole bunch of minutes every game, but if he catches on fire, he's going to be fun to watch at least.
He's going to go. He is.
We were talking about the Celtics before, and did I hear you label Tyler Zeller the new big ticket?
The new big
Boston?
Ticket. You watch out, Kevin Garnett. He's coming for your title, mate. So you watch out, Tyler Zeller. Younger brother of Cody. Yeah. Stereotypically the worst brother, but I think he hasn't had the opportunities. He's been sitting on Cleveland's bench, warming the pines. So
that's a bold prediction. That's a bold prediction.
But he's got big shoes to fill, and I think he can do it.
Yeah. They did. They lost Jared Bayless, which I think he's pretty much a direct swap for Marcus Thornton, and Thornton's got that better offensive potential anyway. And they lost Chris Humphries, who never really worked out as a Celtic like he did with the Nets. He was a double-double machine in his time when they used to be the New Jersey Nets. And he came to Boston, and he was still all right, but he never really reached that level.
See, I'm really not a fan of Chris Humphries. I think he's a terrible NBA player. I think he really just lives down his potential a lot. And I'm still remembering that fight he had. It was Brooklyn v Celtics. It was Garnett, Wallace, Humphries and Rondo, if you remember that one.
Yeah, Rondo got right in his face.
Yeah, and Rondo's going to get in his face, and I don't think they worked out as teammates, and I think it's good they got rid of him.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think if Rondo had anything to do with it, that's probably a reason why he's not there.
Absolutely.
But they also, two of the guys I'm really excited to watch,
Really
and
excited.
I know that potential we keep talking about is Marcus Smart, the 6th overall pick.
Wow.
And James Young, he dropped to 17th off of memory, but that's an awesome pickup for them.
That is.
We saw the Bill Simmons fist pump on draft night, which is great. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Marcus Smart.
So Marcus Smart, he's from is it Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and he is a fireball. He is someone who plays with heart and passion on the court. And I don't know if you saw that, where he ran off into the crowd.
Yeah, shoved a fan in the crowd.
Yeah, I believe it was a racist remark.
It was. It's a bit up in the air about what was exactly said, but it was something they said. It set him off, and he pushed a fan, which it's not what you really want to see, but it does show that passionately.
Absolutely, it didn't hurt his draft prospects. The Celtics looked at him and were like, well, we want someone. Rondo's a firecracker. Now they've got Smart. That's the thing. How are they going to work together? That's an interesting point.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Rondo's there at the end of the season. That could be a big talking point. But James Young's someone that I really like out of Kentucky. He's a decent shooter, catch and shoot. He's going to fill it up when he gets the chance. And a lot of people said he didn't have the athleticism to make it at the next level, but we saw that massive dunk he had against UConn in the championship game. So, it's going to be really good to see him, when he gets that chance coming off the bench, maybe in that shooting guard position. But moving on to a few more contentious picks. I know the players that I've picked that are going to be the most important players for the Celtics this season. We all know Rondo, what he can do at the point guard position. We'll touch on him in a bit later. But Avery Bradley just signed a big deal. I think it's about $8 million a year, 3 years.
Wow.
So he's that defensive stopper, hopefully a 3-and-D guy. The 3 hasn't really been there. The D's still there, but I think the health hasn't been there either. But if he can get back fit and firing, he's going to be a good addition. Got Jeff Green, up and down, 20 points one game, 2 points the next. Brandon Bass, he's the guy that I know you don't like that I've put in there. I love Brandon Bass. He's that grit and grind guy that you need in this team. But you've got Kelly Olynyk, is it?
Kelly Olynyk. Now he's a surprise packet. He was the draft pick last year. He's got that long hair. He looks like a bit of a freak. Looks like that Melbourne Tigers player. If you know the one. Yeah. Very similar. But
it looks like the rapper All Day.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's got some similarities going around. But his last 20 games of the season, he proved that he's going to be something special. I think. He started getting some more rebounds, which his light frame didn't really allow earlier in the season, and he started taking on some points as well. So I think he's
I do agree with you that Kelly Olynyk's going to play a role with this side. I think Brandon Bass, that they might give him some more minutes early, because I reckon he's a decent trade piece that they've got. There were some rumours that they were trying to move him around. Phoenix almost grabbed him, was the rumour last season. So they might put some minutes into Brandon Bass to try and move him on, and then your man Olynyk will jump in.
Then he'll jump in, absolutely.
The other guy I've got in there is Jared Sullinger, who was...
I like Jared Sullinger.
Yeah, he was a really highly touted prospect the year before his draft year. I think he had back issues or something. He fell down the board to the Celtics, but if he can get healthy... And we saw him trying to start stepping out and hitting some threes last season. He didn't do it with great success, but if he can stretch the floor and be that banger inside and stretch it out as well,
he'll be dangerous.
He's going to be good. But our main man for the Celtics this year is Rajon Rondo. Who else could it be? He's their best player. Last season he only played 30 games because he had the ACL tear, and we did see that he wasn't at his complete best. He did okay. I mean, he was about 11 points, 5.5 rebounds, almost 10 assists, but it was the same story as always, that he was struggling with his offensive game and his shooting. I mean, he only hit...
That's it.
It was just less than 30% from three, and only 60% from the stripe is the one that
for a point guard, that's really disappointing. And I think this is my opinion on point guards in the NBA. Rondo's a great point guard, but you're never going to be able to build a team around a point. You need a good small forward, you need a good power forward. And I mean, Rondo's a fantastic player, but he needs players around him.
Yeah.
He's not going to be that scoring machine they need. They need a good small forward that can put out, 30 points a night, and that will bring Rondo out into that, double assist numbers.
Yeah, Rondo isn't the type of guy that's going to take over every game. He can certainly have his nights and he'll grab those triple doubles and he'll have a big influence, but he's definitely not your LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony sort of types that you can just put the team on their back and they will individually get you win. He'll be the guy that's setting up those guys, and he'll cause a lot of havoc on the offensive end and the defensive end. He's a really good defender.
He's
too,
a great hustler, he is.
Yeah, I think for the Celtics, he said he doesn't want to re-sign apparently, so I reckon this might be the end of Rajon Rondo in a Celtics uniform.
Well, that would be refreshing to see for all the Celtics fan, in my opinion, because the way they could trade him off to someone that get a nice small forward, bring in Marcus Smart at the point, and there you go, that's your new team.
That's it. Well, maybe he'll be in that Brandon Bass trade I was talking about before. I've got maybe an inside word there. I'll have to get on to Danny
get on the phone.
Give Danny a call. If you're watching, Danny, you know my number. All right, moving on to, I've said it before, it's my favourite segment of the show, Believe the Hypothetical. Shout out to the boys, Tom Reed, Benyam Cadane from the Believe the Hype NBA podcast. All the description, all the info is going to be on the screen. Follow them on Twitter, like their Facebook page, check out the podcast. They're a couple of Aussie guys that are really producing some top-notch stuff. They've got some contacts over in the States, so it's not like us just sitting on a couch in Adelaide. They've got the real link into the big league.
Yeah, they actually do something with their life.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for jumping in. We're really enjoying running through these questions. So, Tim, they say that this Boston Celtics team reminds them of their glory years, but not the Larry Bird years. No Robert Parrish, no Kevin McHale. The mid-2000s glory years.
And that's a ridiculous proposition if ever I've heard one. I mean, thinking about the comparisons there, as I said, Zeller's the new big ticket. Paul Pierce, well, look, you're looking at Jeff Green. I mean, he's a fantastic player, we all know that. And then you've got, you think about Antoine Walker when he originally started at the Celtics. You heard about him obviously blowing all his NBA money and actually being bankrupt. So, I mean, we'll look to Marcus Smart to fill those shoes. So.
All right, so we've predicted here, we've got Tyler Zeller is Kevin Garnett, so he's going to be a league MVP. You've compared Jeff Green to Paul Pierce, so he's going to be a finals MVP. And Marcus Smart's going to blow all his money. He hasn't even signed a big contract yet. So, if anything from those mid-2000s and late 90s teams from the Celtics is if someone can bring back the Antoine Walker shimmy shake, if anything, the shimmy shake, but we're looking back at those Boston teams that I think in the lockout year they won about 19 games, and I think that lockout year is what we're going to see from the Celtics this year, probably about 19 games, Not the glory years, but
it's close.
Yeah. It's building. If history is anything to go by, those years did lead to a championship team.
Absolutely.
So, you got to...
They're not the scum of the NBA. I mean, there's always going to be someone worse. You've got the D-League 76ers, so I mean, that's always going to be worse.
That's it. I think the Celtics are going to be bad this year, but it's sort of one of those teams, it's like they're bad, but through no fault of their own, really. It's like, they traded away some of their best players. What else can you really expect?
And they had to, because they got to a point where they were too old, and, all good things come to an end.
That's it. You got to bottom out to make it back to the top in this NBA. So, they're doing that in a couple of years. I think that potential we keep talking about is really going to...
It's going to catch
in, but buzzer beat around. We're going to keep going through these previews. We've got 30 teams to do. We're going to put 30 seconds on the clock. What's your prediction for the Celtics this year?
So Celtics this year, I think you're pretty good with the 12th in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll be down around there. They're definitely not going to make the playoffs. No. I really hope they can have an injury-free season. If Rondo plays a whole season, you're going to see dramatic improvement. Yeah,
my prediction, I've already said it, is that Rajon Rondo will be traded this season. He's been bandied around. Danny Ainge isn't afraid to explore talks with other teams, but I think in a contract year for Rondo coming up, they can't afford to lose him for nothing. And they missed out on Kevin Love, which was what everyone wanted them to trade for. So, they have to trade him this season. They're going to trade him this season. This Celtics fans, enjoy him while he lasts, because he's not going to be there much longer. But that's all we've got time for. Thanks again for joining us on the Fiasco Sports NBA previews. Once again, shout out to the Arkabar and Sporties. Check out the link in the description below. Thanks to the Believe the Hype guys for jumping in with these questions. Really enjoying doing them. Whether you found us on fiascosports.com, via my Ball So Hard NBA blog, whatever weird space on the internet that led you to watching us sit on a couch talk about ball, we thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See ya.